Generated over 650 million over the course of your career.
Being a real estate agent, you feel like you're a boxer. I can't explain it enough. All you want to know is that guy going to get me the best price and get this sold?
Welcome back to another episode of ThirstCast. My name is ThirstCast, and today I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Ron Gibson. Ron has a massive history with real estate. We're an expert in real estate for over 24 years now.
24 years.
24 years.
Yeah.
Generated over 650 million over the course of your career.
Yes.
For your customers. Take me back to how can somebody even start being in real estate? What is the process?
Well, I actually started from the age of 7, believe it or not, because I think it's a passion you're born with, real estate. I remember, you're going to laugh, I first of all started off by getting magazines with, so instead of buying comics, I used to like going out buying the sort of home magazines that you could buy. And those were the days where you have to remember being in 1970s and 80s, we didn't have the internet, so you couldn't get all that information. Yeah. So I used to just have scrapbooks of pictures of properties and things, which now people might think that's at 7, 8 years of age, that's quite nuts. But what I'm trying to say is, then it gradually grows on you, because I think you've got to have an interest in real estate.
Yeah.
And what I have to, and it does make me laugh to this day, is I think with real estate is it's in there. It's in there. So I think if someone wants to get into it, you've got to have a real interest, because what other job is there out there as well that you can go out into other people's lives pretty much and see some gorgeous properties. I mean, I've been very fortunate in my career. I started in London, seen some places, you see your studio flats right through to your country mansions, at 5-10 million pounds. And it's such a great career. So to get into it, you've just got to like people. It's a people business. Yes, it's brick and mortar, but as I say, for me, it started at 7 years of age, very early time. And I think a lot of people have interest. And it's so easy to get into property now. But believe it or not a lot of people want to become a real estate agent at this moment. Yeah. It's really hard to recruit.
Is there something that you study to become a real estate agent? Or because I briefly got into the whole concept of becoming an estate agent myself. And I had to go and apply to get that certificate and then go to be mentored or coached by a broker. Now, I don't know the step-by-step process. Eventually, I didn't really do it. Is there something that you can do on your own time and go and learn how to do it?
Yes, you can. There are various courses out there. Property Mark, one of the regulators out there. Really good place to start and join. You can do the equivalent of A-levels to do now. You can also do the equivalent of a higher national diploma as well in property, and that gives you a huge understanding, obviously, of how the process of real estate is. And it's so easy for someone now. So I think the A-level one is about 2-year course, and then the other one is about 4 years. So very similar to like taking a degree, because a higher national diploma is sort of an equivalent of a degree. But the best way I say to anyone, because in this country, we are not regulated. You and I, right now, I don't know if you want to go out there and buy a shop, we could open up an estate agents now.
Really?
That's how easy it is. And that's something I think that the FCA, the Financial Services Authority, or not services, I forgot what they're called now, but the FCA, they need to probably regulate it better, because we're dealing with people's biggest asset. But right now in this country, anyone can go into real estate without any qualification. But I always feel to get your name out there and to have some kudos, that you should have some qualification behind you for sure.
Absolutely. If somebody wants to come to you instead of going to somebody else, what are the difference between the two? Where do you stand out and say, hey, I'm your guy, come to me because I can solve your problem tomorrow?
It's confidence, belief in your ability. There's a real change and a shift. You may remember very well the introduction of purple bricks into the estate agency world in the UK and around the world, because technology, Rightmove was the first thing that really revolutionised the way that estate agency happened. So the reason I'm saying what makes me different to everyone else is technology has obviously made sure that it's harder and harder to differentiate yourself. But the way I do it is there's only me. This is me. I've got 24 years of experience, and with that, I've seen every problem.
Everything from the back of your head.
Look, this is to prove, and I've got receding hairline and a bit of the back. I have my little monk bit where I do my worshipping. But I'd say to you, it's a really tough industry, and of course, it's like anything. It's like what you do, anyone does. There's competition out there, but it's about having belief, having confidence, and enthusiasm. Because all a customer wants to know is, are you going to get them the best price?
Yeah.
They don't want any flannel about you. They don't. A lot of estate agents I hear will go to meet someone.
Yeah.
Can I come to your property? And I'm sure all you want to know is that guy going to get me the best price and get this sold? You don't need to hear about all them. So it's about me listening to my client, and everyone's different.
Right.
That's the thing, is differentiating. And the way I always present to people is I put my pen down and go, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
It's your story, your life. Because let's be honest, our homes are our life.
Absolutely. I've seen a couple of the properties that you have up on your Instagram page, and some of them really expensive properties. How do you go about finding the right seller or buyer, in a matter of fact?
Social media now is a huge thing. I'd probably say Facebook gets me probably a good 50-60%, if not more, of my business nowadays. From a seller point of view.
Right.
Buyers still come through the main portals, but we've become lazy in the real estate industry. We relied on tech. This business I still hear today of people having a database. They say, we don't need a database, because Rightmove will just, and Zoopla and On the Market and other portals will just bring people in. This market is tough. This is probably one of the toughest markets I have seen since 2008. This is not easy out there. And it's the broker, the estate agent, whoever you want to call us. It's those people with the database, the black book of buyers that are going to succeed in this market, because at the end of the day, it's knowing your customers. So, for instance, I use WhatsApp a lot. That is a big part of what I do. But get on the phone. We were having a conversation earlier. It's being on that phone, really understanding your client's needs. So the minute a property comes on, I can go, by the way, Jeff, Dave, whatever, Susan, I've got a property here that will suit you. And that's how you find the buyers. You have to be on the phone, get to know people.
So throughout the years, you have built a massive list of your network with people. Say, hey, I know your guy.
And you have to sort of bribe them almost. Come on, don't let me down here.
But that's so impressive to have a massive network people, because they can help you in so many other ways. It's not just, and this is how I say it from my point of view, from my existing network, and I see it's not just about what they bring to the table. It's also about what you bring to the table and how you both lifting each other up. Because it's not just about opportunities, is it? It's about having a decent connection, a conversation with that human being, because they can appreciate you better on a deeper level.
You're connecting. Dennis, I couldn't agree with you more. It's like we met. It's almost like a chemistry in business. Just like your relationships, business is very similar. Usually within the first minute with someone, if you're going to get on with them and do business. So I could probably, instead of spending an hour or two at a property, they probably could tell you there and then if they're going to like you or not. And I think that's the thing. It's like, as I say, with any business relationship, and remember, homes are very passionate, very emotive. Usually purchases and sales, it's people's lives. And for me, I can say to you now, how do I put this? It's I also sometimes go in thinking, actually, I don't want to deal with you, but business is so important that you get on, because I always say to people, you're choosing a team. I'm not an estate agent. I'm part of your team to help you in get where you need to be, because it's not just about selling a house that people are doing or buying a house. They're doing it usually because they want to be closer to family. They want to do a job change or something like that. So there's a lot more to it. The house is just the thing that's maybe stopping someone from being where they want to be or where they want to go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I appreciate that, because when I want to talk to somebody, especially buying a house, owning a house, I wanna trust this person first and foremost with those decisions, because those decisions are big decisions, especially when it comes to housing, and it's not cheap. It's not like going to Tesco's and buying a meal.
Only. Can I have a 4-bed house, please?
Exactly. So I think trusting and loyalty, and see if you can work together as a team is a big part of building that right connection with that person as well. And speaking about how we met, you came across to an episode that I did with Matthew Des that I did recently, and we talked. Then we met to an event, to Matt's events as well, and then we had a conversation, and that was it. And it's exactly like you said. I think it takes only about a second to really see if you can do any type of business with anybody. And the way I see it is what type of energy this person brings in the moment that you interact with this individual. And if I look them in the eyes, I can honestly say this person is honest and legit. I can immediately tell this person is authentic. Sometimes it only takes a minute to see you in the eyes and say, these guys' eyes have depth. I don't know. Do you ever get that?
I couldn't agree with you more, Dennis. I think you can see when someone's like, you're looking at them and you think, hold on, you're almost looking through them because they're empty. They're just going, oh, just get on with it. Whereas actually when someone's actually, like we met and we were talking at the event the other day, it's really interesting. You've got that connection, because I think that's absolutely, I 100% agree with you. I think business connections are so much better when you're looking forward not just to doing business with that person, but you're actually enjoying meeting the person, because like we're here today, talking about the real estate business and the way things are and everything else. But for me, business is all about getting on with someone, and that I have to say straight away, without sounding too flowery, Dennis, I think that's it's 100% is key, 100%. And real estate is actually a people business. Simple as that. Simple. People by people. The brand may get you in the door. If you work for X or Y, may get you in that door to sit in front on someone's sofa to talk to a client, but they are buying you. And trust. And I love that thing that you say is trust and integrity, because I know that we have the same ethics, because we've had that chat as well, even just now before we started. Ethics is really important, because at the end of the day, if someone doesn't trust you, you're not going to get their job. As you say, it's their biggest asset generally. You're dealing with sometimes for people £5 million worth of real estate. Or even if they're someone just coming on the ladder, 100 grand to them is £5 million. It depends on people's circumstances, because I know my own self. It doesn't matter how much money you're dealing with. That individual, that's everything pretty much they own financially is in that house or apartment, whatever. So they've got to trust you, because you're holding their future.
Yeah, pretty much. How do you deal with your stress when it comes to that specific problem solving?
Well, my wife will tell you the filing cabinet is used quite a few times, and a few broken toes probably help from that. But the best way is you have to realise sometimes that you have to take a deep breath, because it does feel like being a real estate agent, you feel like you're a boxer. I can't explain it enough. The amount of times, it only happened to me yesterday, I got let down by someone who said they were going to instruct me. It's not all about flowers and roses on this podcast saying, I sell this, I always get this. No, you lose them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're promised something and then you see an email and it says, we're actually going to change our mind and go elsewhere, it feels like you've just invested several hours of your time. And that's the thing. I think real estate agents have a bad name, and I can understand sometimes the reason for that. But in what profession can you do a job where you give someone professional advice for several hours and get nothing for it, or work on a project for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
then it falls through and you get nothing? That's... So, but dealing with stress, I think it's important you go and get air and take time out. And I have been bad in the past. I put my hands up. My wife has to put up with my colourful language sometimes, but I have to stress, because I work now from home, it's not so bad, because I always get told off. But the best thing is, eating or trying to eat better, and also just making sure you get fresh air. Go out. We've discussed this just now. Go out for a walk. Just relax, because sometimes it's best just to get away from that laptop, get away from the phone for a little while, because I think we live, and again, we've had discussions on that. My job is all on the phone now. I'm living on my mobile phone, whether it's messaging, whether it's emails, whether it's on phone calls. You're living 24/7 on that phone. So it's important you just take that break away from it.
I know. I 100% agree with you. It's very difficult. I've recently only started to be able to control my stress and my anxiety based on everything that I do. And it's so hard. And it's not for everybody. I know, but it's not for everybody. Dealing with businesses is not for everybody. Having a business is not for everybody. But if you decide to take that lonely path towards to your own version of success, you need to find a way to be able to deal with that kind of stress. Because everybody will go through that no matter what. Can I let you in on a personal story?
Go on, let's do it.
I know this is your time to shine. Coming back to what you said with estate agents. So 2 years ago, I was called by my estate agent. I was renting at the time, and they called me after New Year's. So 3rd of January, because we have bank holidays as well. 3rd of January, they sent me an email first, and then they said to me, happy Tuesday, happy Wednesday. Hope you had good holidays, happy Christmas as well. And the following line was, the owner has decided to sell the property, so you only have 2 months notice to find something else. And imagine you waking up to this letter. I was fuming. And on all of those other things that happened, they called me at the time that I was reading that email. So I was in the process of processing it. So I wasn't the happiest person, as you can imagine. And because I've never been in that situation before. How do you deal with that? And it was just after the pandemic, and houses, and to find and rent a house and a flat or whatever, so crazy. You had to wait in a queue for 50 other people to even view the booking, and you couldn't even go and see the actual property. And it was one of the most stressful periods of my life. I was working without knowing how to go, where to live in 2 months notice. Then 2 months forward, people are coming to my place, and now they start seeing the place, and never been in that situation of having other people in my place to purchase and live in the place that I am right now. But I think that's part of life. And you have to adjust in certain things to be able to survive. One of the things that I've learned and really I appreciate is understanding what it takes to survive and what it takes to adapt. If anything else, those are the two things. If I was struggling right now, I would try to identify those two specific.
Phil, I hadn't known till now you'd been through that, and especially the timing.
Yeah.
Because it was a really hard time. And as you say, I remember the days where, you'd put on a flat, house, whatever, and families were desperate. And as you say, you couldn't often view it. And we were one of the first, as you probably remember, real estate was one of the first sectors to reopen after COVID. We were like almost the guinea pigs. And I'm going, because at that time we were all thinking everyone in the world is, if you don't wear a mask, if you don't do this,
it's ending.
I mean, yeah, it really was, wasn't it?
Oh,
and I think, I was very personal to you earlier saying, I struggled because I'm a people person and mentally it hurt me. So never mind for everyone else, but for you to have got out of lockdown thinking, great, happy days, boom, letter, boom, phone call. And this is where I think there has to be a balance. People should be entitled to sell their homes and everything else. But what you're also got to be, there's got to be, and there will be, hopefully, but we don't know yet, but the Renters Reform Bill is going through Parliament. It looks like it may not now, we don't know, but there's going to be more protection for Section 21 to be dropped, and you can't have no-fault evictions, so it will be much tougher. But as again we're saying, there's a balance between we need more properties in the private sector for rent, because if we're putting landlords off, we're not going to have enough for you to then go, if you lose one, go to another. But what you've been through, I can't imagine. That must have been really tough, wasn't it?
Is it tough?
What did you do? Did you find something?
So for the next 2 weeks of that time, I looked like a maniac to find a different place to even rent. I considered, because I live southwest of UK, considering moving to a bigger city. I couldn't even get to even do the viewings in flats in bigger cities like Bristol and so forth and so on. I even considered change my job career so I can find a house that I can go and live in. But it's definitely difficult, but achievable. If you can, try and do your best and show up every single day, and don't just completely leave that to luck and karma, whatever you want to call it, you will find a solution. And I think it takes a lot of balls to do a lot of things.
So you weren't a victim in that. You were just saying, well, I've got to
but what can you do? You can't change the future in that aspect. You can only change what you can change yourself. So if I don't take action, nothing is gonna come my way no matter what. I need to be the number one person to make that change for me and myself only, let alone other people.
What did you find with estate agents? Were they helpful at that time to you because you're desperate trying to find something? Or did you find it was really difficult? You had to do your own work to find something?
I don't think, I cannot generalize and talk for every estate agent because everybody's different. But specific ones that weren't even, compassionate about it. They may have been through the phone, but you can tell when somebody's trying to get rid of you, So at the end of the day, it was entirely up to me to find different things, find different places and houses, and get online and see what's going on.
Am I right to think, because now, because of COVID, we've got Zoom, we've got all the different products, I hasten to add out there. I'm not actually sponsored by Zoom doing this, am I? So, but I now do video walkthroughs on every property. Now, in 2019 or 2018, I never did video walkthroughs, but now, and I'm just thinking, when you were looking, I guess at that point, we were still new to video. Were you getting any videos sent to you, or were you just...
Some of the properties I was going and seeing, they did have that option on the website.
They did, right.
But I think there's good and bad things when it comes to video on viewing the actual property, because in the video it might not show you everything, or you may have questions, or You want to feel the energy and the vibe of being inside of that house. Because you and I both agree when you go home is what you call home. I don't want to go to a place that feels cold and after a long day return to a place that I don't see myself belong to. If that place doesn't represent me and doesn't make me feel like home, then I'm sorry, I'm not gonna buy into that. And I think that doesn't really matter whether you want to rent something or you want to buy something.
Ask you then, because you've been in that position.
Mm.
You get investors who own a property, but you've got the tenant who's looking for a home. It's two very different things. So, as a tenant at that time, I can see the sort of predicament because a property owner is just thinking, it's just a property to them. It's not their home.
Money.
Investment. Yeah, money. But for you as a tenant at that time, or any tenant, they want that home. And it's really important that maybe the landlord looks at that more and thinks this is actually someone's home, put themselves into their shoes. Because I think sometimes when I've seen some rental properties, they can be quite cold, not just from the literally cold, but they can feel it from the decor and things.
Exactly. To add to that, the way that I see it is colors. Even though I'm mostly colorblind, not entirely, but yeah, I said it.
You can't see this dodgy stuff I'm wearing.
Is colors that makes you feel like home because it gives you that depth, that warmth of a house, and if you want to be inside of it, So if I have plain color walls, no carpets, no additional colors that go with the style of the house. Now I can be very picky, but I think those things are very essential to make you feel like home. It doesn't need to be very, too much. You can make it very minimal until at least I can see there's been some sort of effort to this property, and that will make more people want to buy in because it's that feeling. Now everybody's different. Everybody's looking for different things. You might want to have your own parking space. You might want to have your own garage or anything, or maybe the plug that you plug your Tesla. I don't know. People are different, but the things that I personally found and considered like things at home is those small little details that make you feel like home.
I think it's a really valid point, because although I'm mainly a residential sales agent, the same way dealing sometimes with rental, I think people forget that that's a really important point you raise. For me, didn't think I'd be coming in here today to actually listen to something there that to me I think is really vital, because you are dealing with people's lives. It's not just a financial asset as an investor. You've got to think you actually got to provide a nice home for someone. And that's really important. Colours, because I think every time, if I say, thank goodness we've gone away from what the 80s and 90s with Magnolia. I mean, oh my gosh. It's like, if I see any more, that will be, but no, it's a really good point, because it's a tough market, the rental, but it's a good point.
One thing that I noticed when I moved to UK, it was the buildings. And I know that's not everywhere, but in some areas, the buildings they don't look the same. I know there might be some sort of political policies or whatever in place, or some sort of agenda, which I'm a controversial person sometimes. I like conspiracy theories. But I think that's been done on purpose because if you see something that looks stunning, you want to be in that place. And in the UK, I'm sorry to say this, but when it comes to houses, I haven't personally seen any stunning property from the outside. Now, you're the expert. You tell me more about that.
Oh, thanks. It's true in a way. I mean, it depends on the price band we're looking at, but when you generally talk in the region of, to me, I think 350,000 for a lot of people is a lot of money. But you're right, you get that standard either 60s, 70s house or that Victorian terrace, and it does become very about, because I love those properties, don't get me wrong, so anyone who's watching this thinking of using me, I do have passion for them, I promise, but I agree, they're all very, but I think that's because land is so precious here in the UK. We have a real shortage, a chronic shortage of housing here at the moment. And even the new builds, and what you just said, yeah, I saw a development in where I live in Sussex, and they tried to create different style houses. The problem is, it started to look like a Disney sort of theme park because the houses didn't quite look right. Because I don't know if maybe it is a British thing. We like our standard sort of property, but but you're right. It does become the same old because you look at these modern developments and you just think they're the boxes. They're just the same, like rabbit warrens almost.
It makes me feel like I don't want to be in that place because it just looks like
characterless sort of thing.
Like everything is the same. It doesn't inspire you to be here.
What would you like to see? What do you think could be different?
Most European countries, I mean, I can't speak for every single one. Yeah. They have different. The front of the house, you can do whatever you like with it, as long as it follows some guidelines within what the government says. With that being said, you can change the color, at least the color of the outside. So if everything looks the same, to me, it doesn't inspire me to live in that city. If some things they are separate from other things, they make you want to buy into that specifically because you can then picture yourself living that because the way it looks. It's all about perception, in my opinion. And I think not going too much into politics or anything like that. Elections are now coming up soon. And they're looking to change a few things, and everybody's like fighting over somebody else. But what do you actually do? It's the things that you do before you get elected or before you do.
Well, you've heard the policy, which I'm really anti. I think I remember a few years ago going to Middlesbrough and lovely people. They're actually really nice people. But as I was walking through the town centre, shops were closed, some places were derelict, literally, and then little side roads where you could see investment was needed and help was needed. And yet we've got a Labour government potentially coming, and without being political as well, but when they announce they're going to build 1.5 million homes, where on earth are they going to put 1.5 million new homes? To me, I want to see rejuvenation of areas. I think we've got areas where you don't even feel safe. I mean, in London as well is the same. I think we need to reinvest in brownfield areas, put money into those before building in our beautiful countryside. Because I'm seeing even where I live in Sussex, and I know with you where you are down in the southwest, is we're seeing our countryside just suddenly these new towns are developing or villages are becoming a town.
Yes.
I've got one place where a friend of mine lives very close to me, and they've got about 300 houses in the village. They've just had planning permission for 200 new homes. That dynamic of that village is going to change. And I know this is slightly diversifying from where we were, but what I'm trying to say is I think choice is a good thing, and I think we need to have choice. But I agree with you. We are getting too bland with our housing stock but there's planning restrictions. The problem is developers want to get as much per square foot or per square meter, depending on whether you're metric, whatever. But they're looking to maximise that plot. And planners also enforce developers to build sometimes these static, same-looking properties. So I think planning needs to be looked at, but I do worry about how political parties at the moment, because, as I say, Labour are saying they're not even going to let it be NIMBYs. You won't be able to protest. They're just going to be built. And that, to me, is scary because
it's very
there's no infrastructure.
Yeah. And it's very controlled. And I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to live to a place, a country where everything is so controlled to a point that you can't even express your own opinions. That is the scary part.
And that's a really good point. And funny enough, we had that in the recent event we've been to, is being able to have your thoughts, and actually there should be more say on how we live and our housing, because they're also trying to encourage, aren't they, more and more now, with 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in towns. There's no bus services to get to other places because public transport, in this country, I think, is appalling. When you look at Germany, what is it for a season ticket per month is like £45. In this country, what is it if you're going to London from Sussex or Kent, or I'm sure from where you are in the southwest, it's a small fortune. But that's like £500 a month. So we're doing something very wrong in this. I know it's not to have a go at any establishment, but you're right. Do you want to live in a place where, because cost of housing is ridiculous? Look, we were saying this, first-time buyers. I was talking to someone on the train on the way up, and they were saying their two children, who are not children now, they're young adults, 22 and 24, are living at home, and they can't afford to get out. The government, respect not just the current, but before, started with Margaret Thatcher, which was a good idea, don't get me wrong. It's made a lot of people money, and that's given them a chance. But a lot of our housing stock, council houses, have been sold off. Now, a lot of it, unfortunately, was a bit corrupt because people were selling it on to other people within their families and blah, blah, blah. But what it's meant now, we haven't got enough social housing. We've got a lot of, whether we want to, I'm not pro or anti, but we've got a lot of people coming into the country who need housing, and we haven't got enough. We haven't got any. And where I'm trying to go is housing is a huge, huge issue for any government, I think, coming in, whether it's Conservatives, whether it's a split government. I don't know the answer. But all I do know is that for youngsters now, they are living at home because they can't afford. Because let's be honest, what is it now? An average price of what, £250,000? They're on 25,000 a year. How are they going to take years? So that means the parents are looking after them longer. They're going to struggle when they get to retire and have their state pension and whatever. There's a big bubble here. If we don't sort it now, but I don't know how.
That's going to increase again and again.
It is, and we need to address it, and not. But we need politics to look at the longer term, because we always look at 5 years length of a government. We don't think about the longer term issues that this country is facing. Because look at here, I mean, where we are filming today and recording, I don't know how people can afford. And saying, this lady said to me, her daughter was at university paying £500 for a small room in a house, but that was in Bognor. It wasn't exactly in London, so how much are they paying without bills? But anyway, I could rabbit on forever on that. It's just a very difficult subject, isn't it?
It's
very tricky.
To wrap up things, if you had to give me advice, 28.
Yep.
I'm still, trying to work my things to do great things. What is your advice to me?
Buy property as soon as you can, or
as
try.
Soon as I can.
It's whether the market goes up and down. I didn't listen to my dad when he told me that, and I wish I had. I mean, mind you, that was when property, you could buy a flat for 50, 60 grand. Things have changed a lot. But then again, there are mortgages now, and there's products like, Help to Buy schemes and all sorts of things. So, as I've said just now, yes, there's problems for youngsters, but there is more help there. And I would 100% say to you and to anyone listening to this, is property is where really, apart from gold, of course, and that, but you've got brick and mortar. You've got a roof over your head. The first thing you should do is try and get your own house. It's not easy, I know that, but nothing in life that's good is easy to get. You have to work for it, but property is definitely the thing you need to own. And also, you make your own stamp, and it makes you feel good. Because look at, you were saying, when you were a tenant, how much money were you just literally...
It's not worth it. At the same time, what can you do?
You can't.
That's the harsh reality of this world.
It is, and it is a harsh reality. But do you know what? I think there's a lot of products out there now that can actually help you, and I think we need to get developers to, or we certainly need to get the government to incentivize the developers to build more houses where you can buy 5% share. Shared ownership is a really good way of getting into property. And yes, it has its downfalls as well. It's not perfect, but it does give you a stake, a shareholding in that. Yeah. And then you can step up later. But,
well, thank you very much for your time today.
Good
I
to meet you
appreciate you. Where can people find you on social?
My website is rongibson.co.uk. I also have a YouTube channel as well, which is Your Personal Estate Agent. So at Your Personal Estate Agent, and Facebook at Your Personal Estate Agent UK. But happy to always help with any questions.
Wonderful. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you go and follow Ron, and myself on YouTube at ThirstCast. So see you guys next time.